Genitori, genitoque, laus et jubilatio.
Greetings, listeners of Black Prayer Podcast. My name is Dylandrego, and welcome back for another episode. Today is a special day because if you happen to be listening to this on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or any other audio platform, we are launching this episode as a YouTube video. So I would check out the show notes, find the link, and then hop over onto YouTube where you can watch along with the other listeners. Today what we're going to be doing is actually taking this regular 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with it printed on it, the words for a devout method for hearing Mass taken from the Ursuline manual, and we're going to be turning it into an accordion-style prayer card that you can then slip into your missal for Sunday Mass. Now, at the end of this video, I will share a little bit about my thoughts on how to use this, or at least how I use it. But what I would encourage you to do is that if you are watching this on YouTube and you begin to use this prayer card, pop into the comment section and share how you specifically use this prayer card. Now, some of us are parents, we have little children running around and distractions are inevitable. So I'll share a couple of tips and tricks that I use with this prayer card, but I'd love to hear how you're using it also. This actually does something else. Because I'm launching this on YouTube, the algorithm favors comments. So if you enjoy the video, please like, subscribe to the channel, but leave a comment, most especially leave a comment, and then of course that'll help other people find the link for this prayer card, and they'll be able to use it also. So enough chitter chatter, let's dive into the video and get started, shall we? All right, so when you first print out this sheet of paper, and by the way, I would recommend printing out more than one. The reason for that is chances are your very first attempt at this may not go exactly the way that you want it to, and so if you have extra copies, it just gives you a chance to practice, and your subsequent versions will probably be a little cleaner and more crisp looking than your very first attempt. So it doesn't really cost a whole lot of money. Print out an extra sheet of paper or two, and if they all end up being perfect, then awesome, you can hand them out to your family members. But let's get back to this. So when you first take a look at the sheet of paper, you'll notice that on the bottom half, whichever way you look at it, the bottom half you can read, the top half is upside down. And that's done by design, because what we're going to be doing is folding the sheet of paper on its long edge. And when that happens, we end up with a prayer card that we can flip over horizontally, and we don't have to flip it over vertically. It doesn't work vertically. You have to flip it over horizontally. So let's go ahead and make our very first fold. Oh, also, a couple of other materials that you might need is a ruler or a straight edge, and this is to stop paper from bunching up on the fold. Sometimes you end up with not clean folds, and this can get rid of them. And also some smooth object which you can use to crease down your pieces of paper so that you get your folds really nice and crisp. So what we're going to do, just going to take our corners on the long edge. We're going to fold this along the long edge here, take our corners, and we're going to just put them down there. You don't have to be super exact. Sometimes I have a little bit of a perfection tendency in myself, and that can just waste time, but sometimes that's a good thing. So anyway, let's try to get these corners here. And doing this with a camera in the way is even more challenging. There we go. Okay, I'm going to fold this down. Well, that works. Then we're going to take our pen or Sharpie, or you could just use your fingernail and just run it along the edge, along the crease. You get a really nice, crisp edge. Okay, step 2 is going to be making the accordion. And if you were a child and you made paper fans, or you ever folded paper back and forth, it's really just the same thing. This isn't really complicated, but there's just a couple of things that we need to make sure that we do in order to get these to line up nicely. So how do we do this? Well, first thing is take a look at the left side of your sheet of paper, and we might be tempted to take the outer edge and fold it in, but that's actually not the best way to do it. I would recommend taking the outer edge and folding it out, because if we fold it in, we then have no idea where we are in the Mass. We want to be able to see this from the beginning of Mass to the Gloria. We want to be able to see this as the outside edge. So do not fold it in, fold it out. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to fold it out, I'm going to take the edge, and I'm going to try to eyeball and line up the space in between. Now you'll notice already I'm running into a bit of a problem here. It doesn't want to fold very nicely. So you can take your ruler, your straight edge, and you can just kind of shove it in there and then help that fold happen right on that corner. You get a nice clean corner there. Okay, so I'm going to hold this down, hold the bottom part down, and then press down. Then take my Sharpie and run it along the edge to get a very nice sharp fold. Okay, and now we're just going to go back and forth. So we're going to take our folded edge now, and we're going to go the other way. We're going to make the accordion. We're going to again try to line up the paper so it looks about even. The spaces look about even. Again, we don't need to get it perfect. And again, if your paper's having a hard time folding over, it's starting to thicken itself up, you can slide an edge in there, straight edge in there with the ruler. And you can just sharpen up that corner, press it down, go all the way to the top. Now I'm going to take a look in here and make sure I don't have any folded or bunched up paper in there. I don't. I'm going to take my Sharpie again and run it along. Get really nice, crisp, sharp folds. There we go. Then we're going to take our folded edge again. We're going to flip it over. We're going to go to the other side. Here we are. Try to line that up as best we can. It looks about right to me. There we go. Just going to make sure I don't have any folded paper there. No, it looks okay. Yep, so we can set that with our Sharpie. Just run along the edges, crease it. Nice and sharp. Last fold, here we go. So rather than folding over all the bunched up sides and you don't actually see what ends up happening, you can now take the opposite side and fold it out. So remember, we're not folding it in, we're folding it out. It's keeping with that accordion. And try to line it up with the edge there. There we go. Oh, see, look at that. It's got a little bit of a square there. It doesn't want to fold very nicely. Take my ruler, pull that in there, and that'll help your fold. It'll help the paper, just help the paper fold. And then we take our Sharpie and crease it, go over the whole thing. You end up with a really nice, crisp looking prayer card. How do we do? Oh, it looks all right. All right, now like I was mentioning at the beginning here, we want it so that when we flip this over, not vertically, but horizontally, we can tell where we are in the Mass very quickly. So let's say you've been distracted because your child is kicking the pew and you had to put your missal down and you had to put your prayer card down, and now things have settled down a little bit. You pick it back up and you go, oh, I think we're just at the elevation. And you pick up your prayer card and you go, oh, this is from the elevation to the Pater Noster. It's a little bit too far. So I could just flip it over and go, this is the first half of Mass, which will go all the way. So you can just now begin to open it like a book. Through the offertory, to the preface, and then to the consecration, all the way to the elevation. And likewise, if you're in the latter half of Mass and you haven't used this, but you really love the prayers after communion, you pull it out of your missal, you look at it and you go, okay, this is the first half, I need to go to the second half of Mass, and then I can just flip open to from communion to the end of Mass. And there you have it. And so there we have our prayer card that you can then pop into your missal for Sunday Mass. Now, I would encourage you to don't wait till Sunday to go through this. Spend some time reading through it and reflecting on the words, and specifically, like I said before, why these specific things are being asked for during this part of the Mass. It's so important for us to know what we should be asking our Lord during these specific parts of the Mass. It's a great way to train ourselves so that one day, if we don't have this, at least we know what's going on and why we should be asking those things. Now, it's very rare that I will be able to start at the very beginning and work my way all the way to the very end without any sort of interruption from my little children. It's a very common thing. I have 4 kids, and so this is very normal to be interrupted. But I would say that without fail, I will at least hit 3 main parts of the Mass. That is from the beginning of Mass to the Gloria, the offertory, and after communion. And I want to just expand on that a little bit. I want to set intention so that no matter what, whether I'm emotionally compromised, there's a lot on my mind and things are going crazy, I want to make sure that at least the beginning of Mass, I'm offering the correct things. During the offertory, I'm asking our Lord for very specific things. And after communion, now that He is reposing with me, that no matter the state I'm in, whether I feel it or I don't feel it, I'm asking for the correct things so that then I could go into the world and bring Christ to others. That's the whole reason I want to do it right, regardless of how I feel in that moment. I'm an emotional being, you are an emotional being, and sometimes our emotions can get the better of us, whether we can't stop our children from kicking the pew and then our emotions go up, and all sorts of things could happen. Or we really blew it this past week when we lost our temper. Well, regardless of all of those things, we need to ask, we need to hit specific things when we talk to our Lord, and this just helps us do it brilliantly. And so I would encourage you to spend time before you get to Mass on Sunday. Read the readings, put this in that spot so that it's ready for you, but spend some time going through this as well so that we are training our minds, because one day this might not be there. We might not have access to it, and I my kids have pulled this out of my missal and I can't find, but at least if I've been through this enough times, I know the correct things to be praying for and asking for so that I can amend my life and then journey towards sanctity and the transforming union. A couple other things. I would be very curious to find out, if you start to use this, what your experience of it is like. Because for me, these prayers are written so brilliantly that they take, the amount of time it takes to say them is the amount of time it takes the priest to go through that part of the Mass. And I'm curious whether you find that also when you go through this. So let me know in the comment section of the YouTube video whether you found that. Also, if you have a different way, maybe my way is not the only way to use this. So if you find a different way that's really been helpful for you to be able to pray through the Mass, I would love to know in the comment section. Again, let me know, because I want to be able to have this be shared with other people. And the comment section is a great place to do that. And then lastly, if you're not attending a Latin Mass, this is still the most beautiful way for you to pray the Novus Ordo. I believe, I think. It did wonders for me. In fact, it was the reason, one of the main reasons why I ended up discovering the traditional Latin Mass was because of these prayers. I was just dumbfounded and blown away at the beauty of them. And so my hope and my prayer for you would be that you get as much out of this little prayer card from the Ursuline manual as I have gotten, as my family's got, and maybe even more so. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me for the episode this week. Do me a favor, if you're listening to this on Spotify or on iTunes, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. And if you are enjoying the podcast, please share with other people. Tell other people about the Latin Prayer Podcast, and hopefully the spiritual, fruitful benefits that you are receiving from it. I want to thank our patrons for making it possible for me to do these podcasts, and I want to pray for you and your families and your intentions right now. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in caeli, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio, et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Well, thank you again for joining me for another episode, and I'll be back next week with another episode for all of you. God love you. God bless you. May God keep you safe and reward you for your generosity, for your prayers and your time.
Laudatio